by Dr. Suresh, Shrestha, Joint Secretary and Head of the Culture Division, Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation. Introduction. Nepal's cultural heritage is a rich testament of traditions, architecture and artistry that reflects its historical evolution and cultural diversity. From ancient temples and palaces to festivals and rituals, this heritage forms an integral part of Nepal's identity and attracts global recognition. However, preserving heritage in the face of modernization and environmental challenges has necessitated evolving approaches to conservation. Trends in cultural heritage conservation, community-based conservation. Traditional community-based systems like the Guti in the Newar community have long played a significant role in conservation and management cultural heritage of Nepal. Modern conservation efforts also increasingly emphasize revitalizing these community-driven approaches to ensure sustainable and inclusive heritage preservation. Several conservation projects like Patan, Hanumandoka, Bhaktapur, Swayambhu, and many other places have highlighted the success of community involvement in conservation of monuments and sites. Global collaboration. International organizations such as UNESCO, ICOMOS, and many foreign governments like China, India, Sri Lanka, Japan, Germany have played an instrumental role in Nepal's precious heritage conservation efforts, particularly in supporting funding, expertise, and human and institutional capacity building. Partnerships between local and global stakeholders are fostering innovation in conservation practices that also explore disappeared traditional technologies and knowledge as well. Integration of modern advanced technology. Digital technologies such as drone, 3D scanning, Geographic Information System, GIS, Geo-Penetrating Radar, GPR, Geophysical Survey, GPS, and visual modeling have gained traction in heritage conservation. These tools are mostly used for documentation, planning, and monitoring the cultural heritage and sites, enabling more precise and efficient conservation and management. The digitization of archives and historical records has also become a priority for preserving both tangible and intangible cultural heritage. Balancing conservation and development. Balancing heritage conservation and development in Nepal is a complex, however, it's essential challenge, as the society seeks to modernize while preserving its own rich cultural and historical legacy. Balancing heritage conservation with development requires a commitment to safeguarding the past while embracing future opportunities. Recognizing heritage as a cornerstone of identity and development as a tool for progress, Nepal can achieve harmony between tradition and modernization. Increased awareness and fundraising. Nepal, with its rich cultural heritage, ancient monuments, and vibrant traditions, is a global treasure. Cultural heritage is not only a symbol of its identity, but also a vital resource for tourism and economic development. To ensure sustainable conservation, increasing awareness and generating funds are essential. By raising awareness and adopting innovative fundraising strategies, it is possible to protect its legacy for future generations. Collaborative efforts among individuals, communities, and organizations can ensure the continuation of cultural heritage that inspires the world. Policy and legal frameworks. Cultural heritage conservation in Nepal is governed by a mix of policy, legal, and institutional frameworks aimed at preserving its rich and diverse cultural and historical heritage, such as National Policy, Ancient Monument Preservation Act, Guti Corporation Act, Local Government Operation Act, and many others, rules and regulations, which structures the institutional framework, like the Ministry of Culture, Tourism, and Civil Aviation, and Department of Archaeology, Guti Corporation, municipalities, and many others. By combining traditional systems like Guti with modern policy and legal measures, it strives to protect the cultural heritage while addressing contemporary challenges. Youth and education. play a crucial role in cultural heritage conservation in Nepal, as rich in historical, archaeological, and cultural landmarks. Engaging young people in the preservation of cultural heritage ensures the continuity of Nepal's identity and traditions for future generations. Empowering youth through education and skill development can ensure the sustainable preservation. With their creativity, energy, and technological skills, young people can bridge the gap between traditional methods and modern conservation practices without any complications. Needs in cultural heritage conservation. Strengthening the policy and legal provisions. Policy and legal framework is much better, however. The implementation of existing policy and legal tools needs effective to prevent any kind of encroachment, unauthorized modifications, and use of cultural properties. Adapting international conventions to Nepal's unique cultural and socio-economic context is necessary for practical conservation strategies. It requires collaboration among government agencies, local communities, international bodies, and the private sectors, which will be the holistic approach that will help ensure the long-term preservation of cultural heritage. Capacity building and knowledge transfer. The loss of occupational knowledge transfer from generation to generation through family, especially of traditional artisans and craftsmen, poses a serious threat to the cultural heritage of Nepal. Training programs to develop new generations of skilled professionals and transferring Indigenous knowledge are critical for the long-term preservation of heritage. Awareness raising. Educating the public, particularly younger generations, about the value of the cultural heritage is essential for fostering a sense of responsibility. Heritage education programs and community outreach initiatives can encourage active participation in conservation efforts. Public awareness campaigns and school curriculum focused on heritage can foster a sense of pride and responsibility in local communities. Programs targeting youth involvement in heritage conservation can ensure the continuation of preservation efforts. Funding and resource mobilization. Many conservation projects face financial constraints, limiting the scope and quality of restoration work. Increased government investment, international funding, support, and public-private partnerships necessary to secure long-term funding for heritage conservation in Nepal. Cross-border collaboration is necessary for shared cultural landscapes, such as the Silk Roads. Collaborative funding, technical assistance, and shared research initiatives can address common challenges. Disaster preparedness and climate resilience. Cultural heritage of Nepal is much vulnerable to earthquake, floods, and the effect of climate change. Incorporating disaster risk reduction measures and climate resilience designs into conservation plans is vital to protect heritage sites from future threats. Digital documentation and innovation. Scientific detailed documentation, including digital inventories of heritage and practices, are needed for better documentation. Investing in technologies like AI and VR can enhance preservation and education efforts. Community-centric models. It is most necessary to have greater recognition of local communities as custodians of heritage for more participatory conservation practices. It is also necessary to integrate the traditional knowledge systems and local crafts into the rehabilitation projects, empowering Indigenous and communities. Conclusion. Nepal's cultural heritage is a vital component of its identity, reflecting centuries of artistic, architectural, and spiritual achievements. However, it faces significant challenges due to natural disasters, urbanization, climate change, and inadequate resource allocation. Recent trends in cultural heritage conservation emphasize community involvement and integration of modern technologies like scientific and digital documentation. While these approaches are promising, there is critical need for capacity building, policy reform, and increased funding to ensure long-term preservation. Strengthening collaboration between many agencies, local communities, and international organizations is essential. By balancing conservation with development and fostering a deeper sense of ownership among stakeholders, Nepal can protect its invaluable heritage for future generations, which will be the best example or a piloting for the Asia Pacific region in this regard. I thank you very much for your kind attention.